Darcy, I am come to inquire after my sister.
On foot?
As you see.
People often say adaptations are never as good as the original, but Pride and Prejudice 1995 is the exception. In 1995, the BBC aired a 6-episode miniseries based on Jane Austen's 1813 novel, and just like that, British television had a new legend. But don't let the beautiful rooms, the dances, and that classic Austen ending fool you. In real life, this cast did not all get a peaceful ending or a happy ending. Someone fell in love with a co-star, then stepped away from the storm of fame. Someone was followed by his own role for decades. Someone left the screen to stand in front of a blackboard. Someone is no longer here. Today we're looking back at the 10 most memorable faces from the 1995 version after 31 years. And if you stay until the end, I'll open a little box made just for loyal fans. Are you ready? Number 1, Jennifer Ehle as Elizabeth Bennet.
Can you tell me why Mr. Darcy keeps staring at me? What do you think offends him?
Let's start with Jennifer Ehle, the woman who drove men back then. Crazy, not just because of her beauty, but because of her mind. Jennifer Ehle was born in 1969 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, she was 26. This year, she is 57. And the interesting thing is that the most iconic Elizabeth Bennet on British television was actually born in America. Her father was the American writer John Ehle. Her mother was Rosemary Harris, a legendary British actress. Jennifer grew up between two worlds, but in England, she was sometimes seen as an American girl to the point where she had to practice her British accent every day just to have a shot at British roles. Before the BBC brought her into the living rooms of millions of families, Jennifer had studied at the Central School of Speech and Drama in London, appeared in the Chamomile Lawn, and already had a serious stage background. But the real turning point came when Pride and Prejudice was looking for its leading lady. At 26, Jennifer Ehle became Elizabeth Bennet won a BAFTA, and after just one season, all of Britain recognized her. The series gave her awards attention press major offers and also handed her a very long shadow. She could win a Tony for The Real Thing, win another Tony for The Coast of Utopia, then appear in The King's Speech Contagion, Zero Dark 30. She said Dead Ringers, 1923.
Wow. I've learned something very important today, and that is to try walking in your dress before you take it.
Jennifer Ehle and Colin Firth dated for almost 1 year after filming. This is not some dirty story to dig up. But put yourself in 1995. All of Britain was obsessed with Elizabeth and Darcy. If the two of them had still been together when the show aired, the tabloids would not have let them live like two real people. Jennifer once said the fact that the relationship ended before the series aired was almost a blessing because she could not imagine the two of them being turned by the public into Elizabeth and Darcy in real life. After that, Jennifer chose a very different path from Firth. From May 2001 to April 2004, she basically stopped working. She met the American writer Michael Ryan, built a family, and admitted that she no longer enjoyed the work the way she used to. When her children were small, she brought her family with her to work, locations sometimes with a child in the dressing room, sometimes in a Winnebago. When the kids got older and started school, she took fewer roles, sometimes smaller roles because her family needed her to be present. Jennifer lives a very private life in upstate New York. During the pandemic, she read all of Pride and Prejudice on Instagram across 44 videos. I often wonder why Jennifer Ehle did not become a major star like Firth. She was truly wonderful as Elizabeth Bennet. No Pride and Prejudice adaptation before or since has matched that level of excellence. Number 2, Colin Firth as Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy's...
Please allow me to apologize for not receiving it properly just now. You were not...
And now, we're going to talk about Colin Firth, the man who only had to step out of a lake once and ended up being framed for life as Mr. Darcy. Colin Firth was born in 1960 in Hampshire, England. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, he was 35. This year, he is 66. Before Darcy, Firth had already done Another Country Tumbledown Valmont, and he already had a complicated personal life with a son, William, with Meg Tilly, whom he split from in 1994. He did not enter the role of Darcy like some rising young guy. He stepped into it like a man who already understood responsibility, silence hurt, and saving face. Then the BBC version aired in 1995 and everything changed. Firth became the reluctant heartthrob of British television. He once said that after this role, the public identified him with Darcy so much that he felt like he had lost his own personality. That is the very real price of a role that works too well.
I think that the secret of the effect of good writing or any good storytelling is it makes it feel that it's about you.
Later, Firth's private life became much heavier. In 1997, he married Livia Giugioli. They had 2 sons, Luca and Matteo. In 2017, during the Brexit period, Firth took Italian citizenship so the family would have a more stable legal status. But in 2018, his marriage was intensely scrutinized because of the affair between Livia and journalist Marco Brancaccia during a time when Firth and his wife had privately separated. After that, Livia and Firth reconciled, then accused Brancaccia of stalking. Brancaccia denied it. The case was settled out of court. In 2019, Firth and Livia separated after 22 years of marriage. What is impressive is that Firth did not let Darcy or his private life completely define him. He moved on with Bridget Jones, made fun of the Darcy shadow himself, then did Love Actually, Mamma Mia, A Single Man, and finally won the Oscar for The King's Speech in 2011. In 2025, he was still returning to television with Lockerbie, A Search for Truth. I think Colin Firth finally beat Mr. Darcy, not by running away from him, but by living long enough and acting well enough to prove that behind that wet shirt was a real actor. Number 3. Susanna Harker as Jane Bennet.
I'm so happy. It is too much. It is too much. Oh, why can't everyone be as happy?
On screen, Jane Bennet almost never loses her composure. But behind those Regency dresses, Susanna Harker was filming while pregnant. Exhausted, nauseous, and making the whole crew worry about her day after day. Susanna Harker was born in 1965 in London. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, she was 30. This year, she is 61. Before playing Jane Bennet, she already had her own standing, having been nominated for a BAFTA for playing Maddie Storen in the British version of House of Cards. And there's another very memorable detail. Her mother, Polly Adams, played Jane Bennet in the BBC version in 1967. So Susanna was not just stepping into a famous Austen role, she was stepping into a role her own family had already passed through. The role of Jane did not turn her into a global superstar like Colin Firth, but it tied her forever to the Jane Austen community. 3 decades later, fans still remember her as the Jane Bennet of the 1995 version, the beautiful, gentle eldest sister who is almost too kind for the world around her. What many viewers do not know is that the filming process was not easy at all. Susanna was pregnant, and the crew was not just worried about hiding her belly with dresses or shawls. She had previously had a miscarriage, so if something bad happened, production might have had to stop for months, maybe even reshoot parts that had already been completed. There was a scene where she had to ride side saddle under artificial rain, even though she was not a strong rider. Stuntmen were placed just outside the frame, ready to catch her if she fell. She also had to start hair and makeup at around 5 in the morning, feeling nauseous, tired, with her body-changing costumes constantly needing adjustments, and at times she was not allowed to lie down because it might ruin her hairstyle. After the series, Susanna's private life was not completely peaceful either. She married Ian Glenn, had a son Finlay, and then divorced in 2004. The breakup drew media attention because of rumors around the time Glenn performed in the Blue Room with Nicole Kidman. After that, Susanna had a relationship with Paul McGann, but overall, she has kept her life very private. Today, at 61, Susanna is developing Jane Bennet's Second Spring, a story about middle age, the feeling of being forgotten, and rewriting the later part of one's life. Number 4. Crispin Bonham-Carter as Mr. Charles Bingley.
How delighted I was when Darcy told me you were not 5 miles from Pemberley. How do you do? But I can see that you're...
Some actors leave the spotlight because they fail. Crispin Bonham-Carter left the spotlight because he understood that he fit better in a classroom than on a red carpet. Crispin was born in 1969 in England. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, he was 26. This year he is 57. He studied classics at the University of St. Andrews, then worked as an actor and as a stage and television director. Audiences remember him as Mr. Bingley, the kind, rich, somewhat soft man who always needs someone to push him toward the right decision. When he auditioned for Bingley, Crispin was only 24 and was performing in Pygmalion at Nottingham Playhouse. The play's director was not happy that he went to audition, but eventually allowed it. Crispin wore a corduroy jacket because he thought it had a bit of a Regency feel. Later, he said plainly that he was probably cast because he was too much like Bingley. He had once wanted to pursue radical theater, but the screen looked at him and immediately saw a costume drama gentleman. After Pride and Prejudice, his path did not follow the Colin Firth route. Crispin loved the world of acting, loved working with writers, but whenever he had to stand in front of an audience, he would start doubting himself. It was not that he hated art. He just did not want to spend his whole life wondering whether he was good enough. In 2001, he won the Young Vic's Jerwood Young Director Award. A directing path had opened up. But by then, he was already the father of 4 children. His wife Katie was a teacher, and he did not think the lifestyle of a director was stable enough to support a family. He once said he lacked the madness of a full-time artist. After working with young actors at Lambda Guildhall and the National Youth Theatre, he moved into education. From 2007 to 2008, he trained as a teacher, then taught English and classics at Alexandra Park School. Students often did not know their teacher had once been Mr. Bingley. Since 2019, he has been assistant head at Queen Elizabeth's School. Number 5, Alison Steadman as Mrs. Bennet.
My dear Mr. Bennet, how good you are to us.
Alison Steadman made audiences laugh as Mrs. Bennet. But her real life has plenty of things that were not funny at all. A lonely youth, a frightening experience with a teacher at the theater, a broken marriage, the press invading her private life, and old age forcing her to step away from the stage. Alison was born in 1946 in Liverpool. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, she was 49. This year, she is 80. Before becoming the loudest mother in the Bennet house, Alison was already a major British actress. She had Abigail's Party Nuts in May, the singing detective Shirley Valentine Life is Sweet, and she had won an Olivier Award for The Rise and Fall of Little Voice. To be clear, Pride and Prejudice did not discover Alison Steadman. The role of Mrs. Bennet brought her to millions of television viewers, people who may never have seen Abigail's Party or British theater, but would never forget the panicked mother of the Bennet family. After 1995, Mrs. Bennet became one of the roles audiences kept bringing up to Alison for decades, alongside Abigail's Party and Gavin and Stacey. Alison's private life was not as light as the laughter audiences heard. She grew up in Liverpool with 2 sisters who were much older than she was. When they got married and left home, Alison felt lonely, then started pretending to be other people as a way of creating her own private world. At Liverpool Youth Theatre, she once had a frightening experience with a teacher. He offered to drive her home, but instead drove to Sefton Park after dark, behaved in a way that scared her and even threatened her. Many years later, Alison saw him again on a train, followed him, and confronted him directly. She married director Mike Leigh in 1973, had 2 sons, separated in 1995, and divorced in 2001. But Alison did not turn that marriage into a public war. Later, she still said the 2 of them had a good relationship and were friends. She has also been with actor Michael Elwyn for many years since then. Old age took from Alison the thing that hurts a stage actor the most, the confidence to stand on stage and the ability to remember lines the way she used to. Starting in her late 60s, she stopped doing theater because her nerves became too intense and remembering lines became harder. She cried because the stage had once been the thing she'd loved most. She lost her parents, lost both of her sisters, and at nearly 80, she admitted that sometimes she wonders how many years she has left. In 2025, she also fell in Dubai while promoting her memoir. Out of character, broke a bone in her foot and was in so much pain that she sat on the sand crying. But Alison Steadman still has not left the game. Audiences still love her through Gavin and Stacey. She continues with Here We Go, and she still has family, grandchildren, a partner, and her love of birdwatching. At 80, Alison does not need to prove she is strong. She has gone through loneliness, hurt, divorce, family loss, the pain of having to leave the stage, and still returned in front of the camera to make audiences laugh. Number 6, Benjamin Whitrow as Mr. Bennet. Benjamin Whitrow passed away in 2017, but his Mr. Bennet is still one of the most memorable fathers in Jane Austen adaptation history. Whitrow was born in 1937 in Oxford. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, he was 58. He died in 2017 at the age of 80. Before television audiences remembered him through the reading room at Longbourn, Whitrow had already built a very deep stage career. He studied at RADA, served in the King's Dragoon Guards from 1956 to 1958, was stationed in Malaya, then returned to the stage. After 8 years training his craft in repertory theatre, he joined the National Theatre at the Old Vic under Laurence Olivier. Olivier once said Whitrow had never given a bad performance. He was not a loud kind of actor. He was the classic British type, solid-skilled with a beautiful voice and very little showing off. He worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company, the National Theatre. The West End appeared in Noises Off Racing Demon, The Invention of Love, The Rivals, Henry IV Part II, and also television shows like The New Statesman and Tom Jones. But for millions of viewers, Mr. Bennet was the role tied most closely to his name. He was nominated for a BAFTA for this role. Whitrow's private life also had its turns. He married Catherine Cook, a nurse, in 1972 and had 2 children, Hannah and Tom. After separating from Catherine, he had a son, Angus, with actress Celia Imrie. Celia did not want to marry, and the story drew public attention for a while before dying down. Angus later became an actor too. Outside acting, Whitrow enjoyed bridge golf reading and going to concerts. He once said bridge helped him forget his worries for a few hours. After Pride and Prejudice, he kept working. Voiced Fowler in Chicken Run, appeared in Darkest Hour, and continued doing radio until the end of his life. Number 7. Adrian Lukis as George Wickham. Adrian Lukis did not need any real-life scandal because he has spent almost 30 years living next to one of the most scandalous men in English literature. Adrian was born in 1957 in Birmingham. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, he was 38. This year he is 69. Part of his childhood was spent in Adelaide, Australia, because his father served in the Royal Marines. When he was 9, he returned to England and later followed a career in stage and television acting. Before Wickham, Adrian once thought he had gotten his big launch with Granada's series After the War, where he played the lead. The series was promoted pretty strongly, but then it was cancelled because it was seen as too intellectual and too hard to pull ratings. For an actor, that kind of disappointment is not small. You think you have just stepped onto a major road, then suddenly you have to go right back to the starting point. By the time Pride and Prejudice came along, he almost did not get Wickham at first. He was given a smaller role, then later moved over to George Wickham. And thank goodness that happened. Adrian's Wickham has exactly the kind of danger this character needs: charming, polite, handsome, and smooth enough to make people forget to check the truth. But in real life, Adrian Lukis did not follow Wickham's scandalous path. He worked steadily, appearing in Peak Practice, Judge John Deed the Bill, Silent Witness, Midsummer Murders, Death in Paradise, Downton Abbey, Black Mirror, The Crown, Poldark Anatomy of a Scandal, SAS, Rogue Heroes, The Outlaws' Bank of Dave, The Boys in the Boat, and many other projects. He did not become a global icon like Colin Firth, but he is the kind of British actor you see everywhere. Recognize his face right away, then need a few seconds to remember his name. The best part is that when he entered his 60s, Adrian returned to Wickham with the one-person play Being Mr. Wickham. He wrote and performed an older Wickham, still married to Lydia, still defending himself, still trying to charm the audience with that old voice. At 69, Adrian is not just looking back at an old role, he is looking straight at what time does to a man who once lived off his looks and his very clever mouth. Number 8, David Bamber as Mr. William Collins. David Bamber has no real-life notoriety, but his Mr. Collins has been irritating audiences for 31 years. David Bamber was born in 1954 in Walkden, Lancashire. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, he was 41. This year he is 72. He studied drama at Bristol University, then studied at RADA, and won the gold medal in 1979. That same year, he made his professional stage debut in Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Before putting on that stiff collar and bowing before Lady Catherine Bamber, already had a very solid stage foundation. 1995 was a particularly big year for him. While television audiences remembered him as Mr. Collins, the theater world saw an actor who had just won the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actor with My Night with Reg. Bamber's private life is pretty quiet and stable. There is no major credible scandal to dig up. He married actress Julia Swift, has 2 sons, and lives in North London. What is interesting is that one of his 2 sons, Ethan Bamber, did not follow the stage but became a professional cricket player. an acting family, but the son chose the field after Pride and Prejudice. Bamber kept working steadily. He appeared in Chalk, played Cicero in Rome, played Adolf Hitler in Valkyrie, then appeared in The King's Speech, Darkest Hour, Peterloo, A Very English Scandal, and more recently, The Regime. He is the kind of actor audiences usually recognize by face before they remember the name. I like David Bamber because he did something very difficult. He made audiences hate Mr. Collins and still unable to look away from him. In real life, he is private and highly skilled. On screen, he left behind one of the most irritating, funniest, and most memorable men in the 1995 version. Number 9, Julia Sawalha as Lydia Bennet. Julia was born in 1968 in Wandsworth, London. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, she was 27. This year, she is 58. She is the daughter of actor Nadam Sawalha, and Roberta Lane studied at the Italia Conti Academy of Theatre Arts, then left school when she was only 15. Before playing, Lydia Julia was already a familiar face in Britain thanks to press gang Second Thought's Faith in the Future, and especially Absolutely Fabulous, where she played Safi Monsoon. What is worth saying is that Julia was 27 when she played Lydia, a girl who was only 15 in the original story. In real life, Julia did not have a Lydia-style scandal, but she did face the media in a very unpleasant way. In 2004, the press reported that she and Alan Davies had secretly married. Both of them spoke out to deny it, saying the information was completely false, insisting they were not married, not engaged, and took action against the newspapers that had printed the story. Her biggest professional clash came in 2020. Julia had voiced Ginger in Chicken Run, but when the sequel was made, she said she was not invited back because her voice was considered too old-sounding. She was not given an official audition, so she recorded a voice test at home and sent it in. In the end, Ginger was still recast. Julia reacted strongly, saying it felt like being plucked, stuffed, and roasted. In 2024, she kept talking about how the entertainment industry treats women over 50, saying they are often pushed into roles that are old, bitter, and lacking appeal. Julia still appears recently on The Masked Singer UK. But her story shows something pretty cold. Hollywood and television can love a woman when she is young, then tell her she is too old before she even gets to finish her sentence. And after Lydia, the final face today brings us to a quieter sadness. Lucy Briers' Mary Bennet. Number 10. Lucy Briers as Mary Bennet. And the final face on today's list is Lucy Briers, the woman who once stood quietly in the corner of the room as Mary Bennet, but in real life carries a story much heavier than that overlooked role. Lucy was born in 1967 in Hammersmith, London. When Pride and Prejudice came out in 1995, she was 28. This year she is 59. She is the daughter of Richard Briers and Anne Davies, both beloved British actors. The Briers name opened a door for her, but it also placed a very real pressure on her shoulders. She had to prove she had the craft, not just that she was the child of famous people. Lucy studied at Lancaster University, graduated in 1988, then continued training at Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. After that, she did a great deal of stage work, appearing in more than 40 plays and spending time with the Royal Shakespeare Company. On television, she appeared in Red Dwarf 2012, The Thick of It Endeavor, Midsummer Murders, Silent Witness, and more recently, House of the Dragon. She did not become a mainstream star like Colin Firth, but she is the kind of British actor who works steadily, quietly, and solidly. In real life, Lucy went through many family losses. Her father, Richard Briers, died in 2013 from emphysema. Lucy once wrote that the disease turned her father from a 74-year-old man who was still working and still lively into a 79-year-old man who could not walk the length of the garden without stopping to breathe. He had started smoking at 14, back when cigarettes were advertised as something almost harmless. After her father died, her family continued facing her mother, Anne Davies' dementia. At first, they mistook the early signs for grief over losing her husband. Then Lucy and her sister had to learn how to care for their mother, become more patient, and change how they lived day by day. Anne died in 2022 at the age of 87. The most beautiful thing is that in 2026, Lucy returns to the Austen world in The Other Bennet Sister, but this time she plays Mrs. Hill Mary's confidant. She was once the forgotten Mary, then 31 years later came back to stand beside a new merry one who gets listened to more. After 10 Faces, I think we should lower our voices a little. We have gone through fame, divorce, age, illness, loss, and even people who are no longer here. Before leaving Longbourn, think of these 5 things as a small gift for those who still keep the 1995 version in a very special place in their memory. I have watched enough old movies to know one thing: sometimes television history is not in some big speech. Sometimes it is in something very silly, like a wet shirt worn at exactly the right moment by exactly the right person. Jane Austen definitely did not write a scene where Darcy walks out of a lake in a wet shirt, but television has its own way of creating legends. The scene of Colin Firth wearing the wet shirt is considered one of the most unforgettable moments in British television history. And in March 2024, that shirt was auctioned off for 25,000 British pounds. The next one belongs to Jane Bennet. The next time you rewatch Susanna Harker, do not just look at her gentle smile. Look at the shawls. They are an entire production department quietly doing its job. Susanna was pregnant throughout filming, and the crew skillfully used Regency dress shapes, shawls, camera angles, and editing to hide it. I've always loved this detail. The Elizabeth Bennet many viewers see as so English, so Austen, so Regency drawing room actually began life in North Carolina. Jennifer Ehle was born in America. Her father was John Ehle, an American writer born in Asheville, North Carolina, with German and English ancestry. Her mother was Rosemary Harris, the famous British actress born in Ashby-de-la-Zouch, Leicestershire. Jennifer was educated and lived between both America and England. So if you ever believe she was a purely English girl, I do not blame you. She played Elizabeth so convincingly that a lot of people forgot that truth. And Elizabeth Bennet was not easy to find at all. When a role fits so well that we no longer see the actor, it is easy to think it was destiny. It was not. It was casting. And good casting is usually very hard work. Hundreds of actresses from 15 to 28 auditioned for Elizabeth and the other young female characters. Those with the right presence were tested on camera wearing Regency period costumes and makeup, then performing prepared scenes in the studio. Some well-known actors were even offered roles immediately. After all, that they found Jennifer Ehle. And I think they found the right person. Finally, Mr. Darcy refused to stay put in Pemberley. Colin Firth thought he had escaped Darcy. Then Bridget Jones showed up and said, "Not so fast, buddy." The 1995 television version inspired Helen Fielding to create Bridget Jones. After that, the film versions invited Colin Firth himself to play Mark Darcy, Bridget's love interest. That means Firth played Mr. Darcy, then many years later played a modern Darcy. The name Darcy just kept clinging to him as if popular culture refused to let this man leave the room. Looking back at these 10 Faces, I still think Pride and Prejudice 1995 has one of the finest casts ever assembled for a television drama. Not just Elizabeth and Darcy. Even Mr. Collins, Mrs. Bennet, Lydia, and Mary feel like they walked straight out of Jane Austen's pages. We cannot know what Jane Austen would think if she could see this version. But I truly wish she could watch it once, because very few adaptations understand the irony, subtlety, absurdity, and warmth of her world this well. Now I want to hear from you. Where did you first watch the 1995 version on TV, on VHS, on DVD? Or did you only discover it later through streaming? Which character stayed with you the longest? And be honest, do you still think the 1995 version is the best Pride and Prejudice? Or are you on Team 2005? I could do a whole separate episode on 20 weird facts around the 1995 version. And if you like nostalgic stories about classic film and television, subscribe to the channel. With a show like this, the audience's memory is part of the legacy too.
But there is something interesting about the shows that live the longest in our memories. The more familiar they feel, the easier it is to think we already know everything about them. But behind it, there is an entire layer of backstage stories that many viewers have never heard. So today, we are heading back to Hazard County and uncovering the most fascinating secrets behind the Dukes of Hazzard. And trust me, a few of them may make you see this series in a completely different way.